Commander Ralzeric had witnessed countless oddities across the Galactic Federation, but nothing had perplexed him more than the human obsession with pets. After years of serving as a leading officer in the Federation's Cultural Integration Division, he believed he had seen every imaginable quirk of newly joined species. Yet humans, the latest addition to the Federation, presented a puzzle far beyond his comprehension. They treated small, furry quadrupeds as if these creatures were equals, sometimes, indeed, as if they were their own offspring. To Ralzeric, a staunch adherent of logic and hierarchy, it made no sense. He first heard about the peculiar relationship during a routine briefing. An aide passed along a confidential report that detailed a diplomatic incident involving a human security officer and an alien ambassador from the Tyrak system. The ambassador had allegedly made an offhand joke about serving the human's dog as an entree. The officer did not take kindly to it. Bones were broken, jaws were dislocated, and the entire Federation Council demanded an investigation. Ralzeric initially found the incident bizarre. Why would a professional officer resort to violence over a lesser species with no measurable sentience? He assumed that perhaps this particular dog was a rare laboratory specimen, or it held some strategic significance. But all the humans he questioned insisted there was nothing unusual about the dog itself. Instead, they spoke as though it were a beloved family member, not a simple creature meant for farm work or food production. The Federation, in its eagerness to maintain interspecies harmony, assigned Ralzeric to investigate this cultural anomaly. He was not pleased by the task. He considered it beneath his skill set. After all, he had orchestrated peace deals between civilizations on the brink of star-wide conflict. How challenging could it be to figure out why humans valued one particular species so highly? But the more he read the background files, the more he realized the problem was widespread. Multiple recorded incidents indicated humans reacted with surprising aggression whenever someone implied dogs were just food or worthless animals. Federation scientists had concluded canines possessed only modest problem-solving abilities, no advanced language, and no capability for abstract thought. So why did humans protect them so fiercely? Travel preparations were swift. The Federation Council informed Ralzeric that failure to resolve the issue could further strain humanity's relationship with the rest of the galaxy. The humans were forging trade agreements, building cooperative defense programs, and generally integrating well, except for the frequent misunderstandings arising from their refusal to let anyone treat their pets with anything less than reverence. Ralzeric, a tall, four-limbed biped with a scaled exoskeleton typical of his Everan species, stepped aboard his vessel with a frustrated flick of his flexible crest. "I'm going to solve this dog problem," he told his assistant. "Then we can focus on real threats to the galaxy." 3 days later, he touched down at the Earth-based Federation headquarters. Towering spires, gleaming domes, and a chaotic swirl of species greeted him. As soon as he disembarked, he noticed signs in multiple languages. "Service dogs only beyond this point. Please don't pet working dogs," and "comfort dogs available for visiting delegations." It was astonishing. No other planet featured anything like these references to animal companions. Humans seemed to require an entire infrastructure just for canines. The Prime Ambassador for Earth, a middle-aged man named Walter Brandt, was waiting to greet him. Brandt gave him a polite nod, though Ralzeric immediately sensed the ambassador's unease. Perhaps the ambassador worried that Ralzeric was here to impose Federation rules that might contradict human customs. Ambassador Brandt ushered Ralzeric into a private meeting chamber, where a tall, dark-skinned woman with keen eyes stood waiting. "Commander, this is Dr. Elena Brooks, one of our foremost researchers on human-canine relationships," Brandt said. Dr. Brooks extended her hand, and Ralzeric recalled that humans customarily like to shake hands as a gesture of trust. He offered his scaled palm, feeling the slight warmth of her skin against his own. "I understand you're here to investigate an incident that involved violence over a canine," Dr. Brooks began. "I'd like to start by making it clear that humans aren't typically violent. But when it comes to dogs, well, we have a special bond." Ralzeric wasted no time. In my culture, he replied, that bond is illogical. You feed these animals, shelter them, invest resources in them, yet they cannot engage in higher-level reasoning, nor can they truly speak your language. My job is to figure out why you do it, and how we can avert further jokes or misunderstandings from escalating into physical altercations. Dr. Brooks offered a hint of a smile. If you want the short version, we love them. But I suspect you need more empirical data than that. Tomorrow, we'll visit a training center. Then we'll stop by a park where people bring their dogs for exercise and socialization. Raul Zarek nodded stiffly. I'll gather whatever evidence I can. My final report must provide the Federation Council with a clear explanation of this phenomenon. Before they adjourned for the evening, Ambassador Brandt gently warned him, try not to offend the humans you meet. Even if you don't understand why we hold dogs dear, trust that we do. And that's enough to cause a diplomatic crisis when people say the wrong thing. Raul Zarek mentally rolled his eyes, but outwardly he simply inclined his head in acknowledgement. Early the next morning, Dr. Brooks took Raul Zarek to a wide field near the city's edge. Rows of fences, obstacle courses, and a large sign reading K9 Training Academy greeted them. Humans in uniform guided dogs of all shapes and sizes through various drills. Some leapt over high walls, others sniffed at boxes to detect hidden contraband, and one group practiced crowd control tactics. These are primarily working dogs, Dr. Brooks explained. Search and rescue, law enforcement, explosive detection. But even among house pets, you'll find unwavering loyalty. Raul Zarek watched with interest as a dog obeyed a series of hand signals from its handler, demonstrating uncanny focus. His scaled brow furrowed. I see utility in such animals, he admitted. But Dr. Brooks, most humans don't keep these animals merely for work. They keep them in their homes, treat them as offspring. She nodded. Yes, because dogs serve not only practical purposes, but also emotional ones. They comfort us, guard our families, and provide companionship. For many of us, dogs are part of what makes home feel like home. Still skeptical, Raul Zarek followed her to an area where a group of new recruits practiced training. One dog, a large German shepherd named Saber, displayed a protective posture around its handler, a small woman who looked barely out of her teens. When a mock attacker in a padded suit ran forward, the dog barked fiercely and intercepted, refusing to let the attacker near its handler. After the demonstration, Dr. Brooks introduced the handler, Officer Maya Perez, to Raul Zarek. Maya removed her padded gloves, revealing a fresh bruise on her forearm. He's a bit intense, she said proudly, but I wouldn't trade him for anything. He saved me during simulations a dozen times. Raul Zarek felt the beginnings of confusion. But these are just training exercises. You risk your well-being for an animal. Maya regarded him coolly. He'd risk his life for me. That's not just an animal. The day wore on with more demonstrations, each reinforcing the idea that humans trusted and cared for dogs beyond mere utility. They returned to Federation headquarters for a midday meal, and Raul Zarek found himself turning over the question in his mind. How could a species with such short lifespans, no advanced language, and only rudimentary understanding of technology, possibly earn the unwavering devotion of humans? Dr. Brooks, as if reading his thoughts, said softly, dogs evolved alongside us for thousands of years. We shaped them, and they shaped us. It goes deeper than biology or rational logic. Later, they traveled to a local dog park for a less formal perspective. The place was loud and alive. Barking, laughter, children running with energetic puppies. The ground was a patchwork of grass and dirt, dotted with trees and benches. Humans formed small groups, chatting amicably while their dogs frolicked together. Raul Zarek observed a wide range of canines, from tiny creatures that could fit in the crook of an arm to massive beasts with jaws that seemed fit to crush bone. Yet the humans showed no fear. Children squealed with delight, hugging the dogs, letting them chase thrown balls or sticks. One child ran past Raul Zarek with a high-pitched giggle, her shaggy terrier bounding after her. Absolutely extraordinary, Raul Zarek muttered under his breath. He spotted a sign reading, "Please keep dogs leashed unless in designated off-leash areas." That such a sign was necessary showcased the humans' care to avoid chaos, but also their acceptance that dogs needed freedom to move and socialize. While Dr. Brooks spoke to some dog owners, Ralph Zarek wandered among them, making careful notes on a small wrist device. He paused near a couple who were fussing over a black Labrador with a limp. The dog's leg was wrapped in a protective bandage. The man gently reassured the dog in baby-like tones, and the dog wagged its tail, gazing adoringly at him. "I don't think you'll be running fetch for a while, buddy," the man said. "But we'll do whatever we need to get you better." Ralph Zarek, perplexed, approached them. "Excuse me," he said, remembering to adopt a polite tone. "Why go to such lengths for an animal? Are you not worried about cost, inconvenience?" The woman rubbed the Labrador's head. "We love him," she said simply. "He's our family." That word again. Family. It unsettled Ralph Zarek. Family was blood relations in his mind. Dogs were a separate species. Yet from these humans' perspective, the word apparently extended to this creature. He made another note. Emotional bond akin to child or sibling. When he regrouped with Dr. Brooks, she greeted him with an amused smile. "I take it you found many examples of exactly what I've been telling you." He nodded slowly, still reeling. "I did indeed. It's far more than I anticipated." By evening, Ralph Zarek returned to the Federation lodging with a head brimming with questions. He tried to rationalize it. Maybe these humans had a misguided sense of empathy, or maybe it was just tradition. But each interaction had shown genuine love, not just routine care. Tomorrow, Dr. Brooks planned to introduce him to a family that kept a dog purely as a pet, not for specialized work. He was to live with them for several days. The notion filled him with trepidation, yet he realized no secondhand data could substitute for firsthand experience. The next morning, he met the Morgan family at their modest suburban home, a neat, single-story house framed by a manicured lawn and a few shade trees. Liam Morgan was a tall, broad-shouldered man who greeted Ralph Zarek with an easy smile. His wife, Anna, equally warm, invited him in with that human politeness Ralph Zarek was still getting used to. "We're happy to host you, Commander," Liam said. "I hope you won't mind our dog, Lucky. He's a golden retriever, extremely friendly." Ralph Zarek nodded. Friendliness is acceptable, as long as he knows his place. Anna exchanged a look with Liam that Ralph Zarek couldn't quite interpret. Then the children bounded in, Emma, who was 8, and Leo, who was 5. Both greeted Ralph Zarek shyly, but with curiosity. Behind them came Lucky, tail wagging in broad sweeps. The dog's golden fur gleamed in the sunlight, streaming through the windows. He approached Ralph Zarek to sniff his scaled forearm. "He's checking you out," Anna explained. "Let him get your scent. Once he's comfortable, he'll be your best friend." Ralph Zarek forced himself to remain still. The dog's wet nose felt strange, and its warm breath startled him. But as soon as Lucky finished sniffing, he sat down politely, looking up with wide, trusting eyes. "He's not dangerous," Emma piped up, as if reading Ralph Zarek's thoughts. "He's a good boy." That phrase struck Ralph Zarek. Good boy," he repeated under his breath. Humans often address dogs with such affectionate terms, as though praising a child. Dr. Brooks, who had accompanied him for the initial introduction, gave him a reassuring nod. "Well, Commander, I'll leave you in the capable hands of the Morgan family. If you have any questions, you can call me. Good luck." The day passed in an unremarkable flurry of domestic routines. Ralph Zarek declined the human food they offered, preferring his own nutrient rations. He observed Anna fix lunches for the children while Lucky waited patiently, tail thumping the floor, hoping for scraps. Emma and Leo took turns hugging Lucky, who licked their faces. Ralph Zarek was torn between astonishment and a vague sense of discomfort. Watching these children press their faces close to the dog's muzzle flew in the face of everything he knew about animal behavior. Did they not worry about bites, disease, or fleas? Yet there was such joy in the children's eyes, and Lucky's wagging tail never stopped. The bond was undeniable. As the hours wore on, Ralph Zarek asked Liam about the practical aspects. "What do you gain from Lucky?" he asked, perhaps a bit too bluntly. "Is it protection, labor, or some beneficial service?" Liam shrugged. He does guard the house. He barks if strangers come around. But mostly, he's part of our family. He's loving, comforting, and loyal. When my kids feel scared or sad, Lucky's there. He sleeps in Emma's room sometimes if she has nightmares. He plays with Leo in the backyard, keeps him active. This may sound strange to an outsider, but we don't keep track of what Lucky does for us in some cost-benefit list. We just can't imagine our home without him. Ralzeric jotted notes. Emotional support, intangible benefits, akin to a caretaker or sibling, he murmured, trying to categorize the phenomenon in logical terms. Emma overheard and giggled. He's not my sibling. He's my dog. Then she scurried off to color pictures of Lucky, presumably. In the evening, while the children were occupied, the adults gathered in the living room. Lucky lay at Liam's feet, occasionally rolling over to request belly rubs. Anna, after hearing about Ralzeric's mission, said gently, I hope you won't take offense, Commander, but you might never fully understand if you only study it. Sometimes you just have to feel it. Ralzeric's crest twitched. That's precisely what my superiors warn me about. Emotional attachments overriding logical thinking. Liam chuckled softly, scratching Lucky's ears. Maybe so, but the heart has its reasons that logic can't always explain. I can't imagine how we'd cope if someone threatened Lucky. It'd feel like someone threatening our child. Ralzeric stiffened at that parallel. He recalled the council documents describing how a human had broken an ambassador's jaw at the mere implication of turning a dog into a meal. He had assumed it was an extreme reaction, but after seeing the Morgan household, he began to suspect such a response might be more common than the Federation realized. That night, Ralzeric struggled to sleep. He was unused to Earth's gravity, and the domestic noises unsettled him. The hum of appliances, distant barking from neighborhood dogs, and even the gentle steps of Lucky patrolling the hallway. Several hours into the night, he heard a small whimper from Emma's room. Moments later, Lucky trotted past his door, nails clicking on the wooden floor. Curious, Ralzeric slipped out of bed and peeked into the corridor. He saw Lucky push open Emma's door with his nose. Then he heard Emma whisper, Lucky, I had a bad dream. The dog hopped on the bed carefully, and Emma hugged him. The whimpering subsided, replaced by a soft sniffle and quiet gratitude. Ralzeric stood there transfixed. The dog comforted the child, fulfilling no official role, no trained directive, just genuine empathy, if that was the correct word for an animal. Emma's breathing soon steadied, and Lucky curled up at her feet, watchful as if guarding her dreams. The following day introduced Ralzeric to a new aspect of human canine life, veterinary care. Lucky accidentally stepped on a broken piece of glass in the backyard. He yelped, limping toward the house. The children panicked, Anna gasped, and Liam dropped everything to scoop Lucky up and rush him to a nearby veterinarian. Ralzeric insisted on accompanying them, partly out of duty and partly from a surprising sense of concern. The veterinarian, a calm woman with gentle hands, cleaned and bandaged Lucky's paw. The injury turned out to be minor, but the Morgans fretted over possible infection. They spoke about the cost of care, how it was no issue because Lucky's well-being was paramount. Meanwhile, Ralzeric observed the entire scene, making mental notes. Willingness to expend resources on the dog, emotional distress at the dog's pain, relief when told he would recover fully. The notion that humans would go to such lengths, financially and emotionally, for a non-human was astonishing. Even though Ralzeric had read about it, witnessing it firsthand made the difference. By the end of his third day with the Morgans, Ralzeric found himself chatting with Anna about other stories of canine heroics. She recounted how some dogs could detect illnesses like cancer, how others rescued humans trapped in avalanches or earthquakes. It's not just the big heroic stories, though, Anna said. Sometimes, just having a dog by your side when you're feeling lonely or sad can make all the difference. Ralzeric listened intently, no longer scoffing as he had at the start. The next evening, an event occurred that would serve as a catalyst for Ralzeric's true understanding of why humans were so protective of their dogs. He was sitting on the couch reviewing notes while Liam read the news on a handheld device, and Anna busied herself in the kitchen, and the children played a board game. Lucky snoozed in the corner, one ear cocked to the side. Suddenly, a loud noise shattered the peaceful moment. The front window cracked violently, sending shards of glass across the living room. Two figures in dark attire charged inside. "Get down!" Liam yelled, pulling Emma and Leo behind him. Anna screamed. Lucky jerked awake, barking fiercely. Ralzarik's instincts kicked in. He was trained in Federation defense tactics. He leapt to his feet, scanning for a weapon, his crest flaring. One of the intruders pointed a projectile weapon at them. "Everybody shut up!" barked the invader, voice trembling with adrenaline. The second intruder rummaged around, possibly looking for valuables or technology. Liam positioned himself between the intruder's weapon and his family. The children cowered behind him. Lucky continued to bark in furious alarm, baring teeth, stepping forward to stand with Liam. The intruder closest to them seemed momentarily unsettled by the dog's aggression. "Shut that thing up, or I'll shoot it," the invader spat. Anna tried to hush Lucky, but the dog only barked louder, sensing the fear. Ralzarik inched to the side, hoping to distract them. He saw Liam's expression shift, a mix of terror for his children and burning rage at the threat toward Lucky. Suddenly, the second intruder turned, brandishing a metal rod. "I'll take care of the mutt," he sneered, raising it as if to strike. Time seemed to slow. Ralzarik anticipated the blow. The children screamed. Lucky snarled, ready to lunge. But before the intruder could swing down, Liam hurled himself forward, blocking the rod with his forearm. The force of it knocked him to the ground, a cry of pain escaping his lips. Immediately, Lucky lunged at the man's leg, teeth sinking in just enough to make the intruder yell and lose balance. The other intruder aimed the gun at Lucky. "No!" Anna shrieked, stepping forward. In that split second, Ralzarik acted. He had a Federation stun device integrated into his uniform. With a deft motion, he fired a crackling burst of energy that crackled through the air and enveloped the armed intruder. The man crumpled, dropping the gun. The second intruder, dazed from Lucky's attack, tried to scramble away, but Ralzarik swiftly subdued him with a precise blow from his specialized Yvarin nerve pinch. The entire clash ended in less than a minute. Glass littered the floor, the children were sobbing, Anna was trembling, and Liam lay on the ground, holding his bruised arm. Lucky stood guard near Liam, chest heaving, teeth bared, ready to spring again if either intruder moved. Police sirens echoed outside, triggered by the home's security system. Ralzarik realized he was breathing hard too, adrenaline surging through him. He knelt by Liam. "Are you all right?" The man grimaced. "I'll live. Is everyone else okay?" Anna, the kids, Lucky? Anna hurried to the children, hugging them close. Lucky seemed uninjured. The intruder's attempt to strike him had been foiled by Liam's intervention. Blood trickled from Liam's forearm, where the rod had struck. Police arrived, took statements, and paramedics treated Liam's arm. The Morgans were shaken, but safe. Lucky whined, pacing around the paramedics as they examined Liam. Ralzarik noticed something. The dog was anxious, distressed that his family member was hurt, even though it was just a bruise. The children clung to Lucky as if he were a lifeline. One officer turned to Ralzarik. "We'll need your account of events, Commander. But from what we gather, you saved everyone from a much worse outcome." Ralzarik nodded, mouth dry. "I only did what training dictated." His gaze lingered on Lucky. The dog had risked himself, barked warnings, and attacked the intruder to protect the family. Liam, in turn, had thrown his body in front of a weapon to shield the dog. This reciprocal devotion left Ralzarik speechless. An hour later, after the intruders were taken away, Anna and Liam tried to calm the children, who were rattled by the ordeal. Lucky settled beside Emma and Leo, letting them stroke his fur. Ralzarik stood by the door, uncertain what to say. Eventually, he cleared his throat. "You put yourself between that weapon and Lucky," he said quietly to Liam. The man flexed his injured forearm. "I guess I did." Ralzarik's crest shifted. "Logically, you should protect your children first. Why take such a risk for a dog?" Liam managed a weary smile. "The kids and Anna were behind me, and I knew they'd run or duck if it got worse. Lucky wouldn't run. he'd stay and fight. He'd get himself killed protecting us. I couldn't let that happen. Anna, overhearing, added softly, "That's what family does." The word family struck Ralzeric again. In Yvarin society, family was bound by genetics. Protecting an unrelated being to such lengths was beyond comprehension. But as the paramedics finished their examination, Lucky tentatively licked Liam's forearm, whining apologetically. Ralzeric watched Liam ruffle the dog's ears. "It's okay, boy. We're safe now." The dog's tail gave a tentative wag, as though it understood the reassurance. Ralzeric turned away, suddenly overwhelmed. This was no longer just an abstract study. He had witnessed love, a fierce mutual bond, in action. For a creature that could not speak a single word, Lucky had shown enough devotion to risk life and limb, and the humans reciprocated. That same night, Ralzeric composed an urgent message to his Federation superiors. The so-called pet phenomenon was far deeper than he had realized. Humans considered dogs a core aspect of their family, emotional support, and personal identity. Any perceived threat toward these creatures was effectively a threat to the family itself. He recommended immediate cultural advisories to all Federation personnel dealing with humans on Earth, warning them to avoid trivializing or insulting dogs. He also insisted more thorough research be done so that other species could understand the seriousness of the matter. He wrote about witnessing a home invasion, describing how the dog and the father had protected each other, and how the children had reacted as if a sibling were in danger. In the final paragraph, Ralzeric admitted that he, too, had intervened not only out of protocol, but with a genuine desire to protect Lucky. A few days later, Ralzeric returned to the main Federation building in Earth's capital city. The council had convened to address his findings, and the security tapes from a Morgan household, which had a standard Earth security camera, provided undeniable evidence. A large assembly of alien delegates gathered, many of them curious, some skeptical. On a raised dais sat High Commissioner Vesria, a venerable figure from the xanthic species, whose elongated limbs and shimmering carapace gave her an imposing presence. "Commander Ralzeric," she intoned, "we have studied your report and the incident footage. It appears humans attach extreme emotional value to these animals known as dogs. The question is, how do we proceed?" Before Ralzeric could answer, an agitated voice chimed in from one side of the council chamber. Ambassador Grelln of the Tyrax system, his mandibles twitching. "Why must we cater to this sentimental nonsense? If these creatures are non-sentient, what difference does it make? A dog is akin to livestock on many worlds." Ralzeric held his ground. "With respect, Ambassador, humans have a distinct cultural norm. When threatened, they respond as if a family member is endangered. We have the physical evidence. That father leaped in front of a weapon for the dog, and the dog, in turn, risked its life for him. Ignoring this bond will only lead to more incidents." Commissioner Vesria tapped her elongated fingers. "We cannot have more broken jaws or worse. We must formalize a policy. Dr. Elena Brooks had been allowed to speak as a special liaison. She stood beside Ralzeric, addressing the council with calm confidence. "Dogs co-evolved with us. We shaped their loyalty, and they shaped our capacity for empathy. Perhaps you see no logic in it, but to humanity, dogs are unique." She pressed a button, projecting images of search and rescue dogs, therapy dogs for veterans with post-traumatic stress, guide dogs for the visually impaired, and countless scenes of everyday companionship. She ended the slideshow with a brief clip of the Morgan House invasion, showing Lucky's protective stance and Liam's intervention. A hush fell over the chamber. Even Ambassador Grelln shifted uncomfortably. After a charged silence, Commissioner Vesria turned again to Ralzeric. "Your recommendation, Commander?" He took a moment to gather his thoughts. "I advise that we issue an immediate cultural advisory. Insulting, threatening, or joking about harming a human's dog is tantamount to threatening the human directly. Additionally, I propose a pilot program. Perhaps delegates from various species can live on Earth with trained, socialized dogs for a duration to learn empathy and cultural respect in a controlled environment. It could avert future missteps." A murmur of surprise and curiosity spread among the delegates. Ambassador Greln crossed his arms but said nothing further. Several others nodded, intrigued. In the weeks that followed, the council approved Ral Zarek's recommendation. Memos were circulated throughout the Federation, warning that making light of canine harm could trigger severe backlash. A pilot program, dubbed Cultural Exchange Canine, was established. Volunteers from different species would spend a month or two with carefully selected canines under the supervision of trained human handlers. The humans, for their part, welcomed the initiative, hoping it would reduce the tension and help their new allies appreciate the value of dogs. Ral Zarek oversaw the early stages of the program. He found himself unexpectedly championing the cause, making impassioned speeches about how ignoring emotional factors in interspecies relations was detrimental to the Federation's unity. He visited training centers where alien diplomats tentatively learned how to approach, pet, and care for dogs. Some were terrified at first, unable to process the idea of a friendly predator. Others were enthralled by the animal's intelligence, playfulness, and loyalty. One day, Ral Zarek encountered Ambassador Greln again, this time outside the main Earth Embassy building, looking uncharacteristically flustered. Next to him stood a large, patient Labrador named Daisy. Ral Zarek approached with a polite inclination of his crest. "Ambassador Greln, I see you joined the program." The Tyrax ambassador, who once sneered at the notion, now looked sheepish. "Yes, Daisy, they call her," he said, patting the dog awkwardly. "She's more agreeable than I anticipated." Daisy wagged her tail, pressing her muzzle gently against Greln's side as though sensing his uncertainty. The ambassador managed a small grin, his mandibles relaxing. "She has a calming effect, honestly. It's odd." Ral Zarek recalled how only a short time ago, Greln had viewed dogs as livestock. Now he was on Earth, bonding with one. This, Ral Zarek thought, was precisely what they needed, real experiences that overcame prejudices. Meanwhile, Ral Zarek continued to keep in touch with the Morgans. He inquired about Lucky's recovery after the home invasion. Liam's forearm had healed, Lucky's paw was fine, and the family was doing their best to move on from the trauma. They were grateful for Ral Zarek's timely intervention. Emma even drew a colorful picture of her family standing side by side with Ral Zarek, Lucky, and Dr. Brooks, labeling it "Our Protectors." Ral Zarek smiled at the childlike depiction of himself, big eyes, scales, and a bright crest. He was surprised at the warmth that filled him. In the Yvaran hierarchy, emotional attachments outside one's brood clan were almost unheard of. Yet here he was feeling genuinely connected to these humans. As the pilot program expanded, stories emerged of other alien species forging surprising bonds with dogs. An aquatic-based being from the planet Avria was matched with a water-loving Portuguese water dog. A reptilian ambassador from Star overcame her initial dread to befriend a gentle Saint Bernard. Reports poured in about how these experiences softened their view of Earth culture, leading to more open and trusting negotiations on trade, defense, and scientific collaboration. The Federation Council took notice. A matter once deemed trivial now seemed to yield significant diplomatic gains. Eventually, Ral Zarek found himself at a Grand Federation summit back on Earth, 2 months after the pilot program started. He was to deliver a keynote address on bridging cultural gaps. Delegates and ambassadors from over a dozen star systems gathered. Some even had their assigned dogs with them, kept on leashes or relaxing by their seats. A few years ago, the sight would have been unimaginable. Alien dignitaries with canines in official gatherings. But the humans had insisted, and the success of the pilot program gave them leverage. Ambassador Greln, with Daisy by his side, winked at Ral Zarek, a universal sign of friendly solidarity. Dr. Brooks was there too, giving him an encouraging nod. Stepping onto the platform, Ral Zarek cleared his throat. "Honored members of the Galactic Federation, when I was first assigned to investigate the human practice of keeping dogs as beloved companions, I was as skeptical as any of you. Perhaps more so. I couldn't fathom how a non-sentient, non-speaking creature could merit such devotion. But what I discovered was the power of emotional connection, a force that transcends logic and, in many ways, underpins our Federation's greatest ideals. He gestured to the array of diplomats, some petting their canine partners as he spoke. We have seen how dogs' loyalty, affection, and intuitive empathy complement the human psyche, shaping a bond that has evolved over millennia. Our pilot program has shown that forging a bond with these animals can transform interspecies relations, instilling mutual understanding and respect in ways cold treaties alone cannot. He described the Morgan family's ordeal and how Lucky's bravery, coupled with Liam Morgan's selfless act, illustrated the reciprocal nature of the human-dog relationship. He recounted how the Federation's initial amusement at human pets had nearly cost them the goodwill of an important ally. As he spoke, some delegates nodded in agreement, while others listened in rapt silence. We are a federation of many species, each with distinct cultures, values, and biology, Ralzera concluded. In bridging these divides, we must remember that emotional connections can be as vital as logic, trade, or technology. Let the lesson of the dogs be a reminder. Sometimes, the heart unites us where nothing else can. Applause resonated through the hall. Commissioner Vesria rose, offering formal recognition of the new guidelines on respecting Earth's canine companions. As the session drew to a close, Dr. Brooke stepped forward. "Congratulations, Commander," she murmured. "You've done more than prevent a few unfortunate incidents. You've laid the groundwork for a deeper understanding across species." Ralzeric angled his crest humbly. "It seems that I have also been changed in the process. Now, if only we could replicate this phenomenon with other Earth species you humans hold dear." Dr. Brooks laughed. "One cultural shock at a time. Cats might be next, but that's a different story altogether." When the summit adjourned, Ralzeric spotted Liam, Anna, Emma, Leo, and Lucky in attendance as special guests. The children ran up to him, hugging his scaly legs. Lucky bounded over, tail wagging. Ralzeric hesitated, then carefully reached out, letting the dog sniff his hand. Lucky licked his palm as if in greeting. Emma beamed. "Commander, are you still scared of dogs?" He gave a small smile, or the Yvern equivalent of it. "I was never scared, Emma, merely uncertain. But I've learned better." The family thanked him again for everything he'd done. Ralzeric felt an odd tightness in his chest, something akin to affection. "I like to keep in contact," he said. "I'm certain the Federation will want more data on the intricacies of human-canine bonds." Anna laughed. "Consider us your living lab, Commander." They parted ways, and Ralzeric spent the remainder of the day signing off on official documents and talking with other delegates about the next steps. He heard repeated stories of how adopting or fostering a dog had unexpectedly enriched many alien dignitaries' lives. Even Ambassador Greln sheepishly admitted Daisy had become like a treasured companion. The ambassador's once prickly demeanor softened. Ralzeric realized that while humans might be unique in their intense emotional attachments, the capacity to form cross-species bonds existed in others too, given the chance. As night fell, Ralzeric retired to his Earth lodging. The swirling city lights outside the window cast shifting patterns on the walls. He glanced at the final draft of his report. It bore the official Federation seal, concluding with these words, "They laughed at human pets until they saw what happens when you threaten a dog's owner. The dog will defend you with its life, and the human will do the same in return." In that shared willingness to protect and love, the boundaries of species blur. We see them not as lesser beings, but as part of the family, a lesson that resonates beyond logic, speaking directly to the heart of what it means to form a federation. He ended up adding a few personal reflections. "I came here believing the relationship between humans and dogs was irrational. I leave convinced that it is precisely these irrational bonds that anchor civilizations together. Where reason ends, love can bridge the gap. Perhaps that is what we in the Federation have been missing all along. I now firmly recommend not only the acceptance of dogs as a protected species within human culture, but also the encouragement of interspecies emotional enrichment programs across the galaxy." If we cannot learn from dogs how to be loyal and compassionate beyond genetic ties, then we have little hope of forging a truly unified federation. He gazed at the text for a long moment, then saved it. There was nothing more to add. Perhaps it was surprising that a Yvarin officer, once so dedicated to strict rationale, had penned such an emotional conclusion. But after hearing the Morgan children laugh as Lucky herded them in the yard, after seeing Liam throw himself between a weapon and his dog, and after experiencing that intangible closeness that had formed even in his own heart, it all made sense. He couldn't help smiling as he recalled Lucky's curious brown eyes and the childlike trust the dog radiated. In the days that followed, the Federation's official stance on Earth's dogs evolved. They became recognized as a protected cultural heritage species under Federation law, meaning any threat toward them could be prosecuted as a direct offense to human cultural integrity. Information packets were distributed to every new dignitary visiting Earth, clarifying that in human culture, dogs weren't merely animals. They were beloved kin. The difference between an offhand remark and an outright insult could be the difference between peace and violence. As months passed, Raul Zarek found himself returning to Earth more frequently. Each time, he checked in on the Morgans and Lucky, who greeted him with that same enthusiastic wag. Emma and Leo would run out to show him new tricks they had taught their dog, or updated drawings, or pictures of family outings. Once, Raul Zarek accompanied them to a local hiking trail, watching in amazement as Lucky trotted alongside the children, occasionally darting off to sniff an interesting scent. Emma giggled and told Raul Zarek, "He's part of our pack, you know. You can be too." The notion of being part of a pack warmed him, even though it was a concept foreign to Yvarin society. He realized that perhaps it was better than any formal Federation alliance, this feeling of genuine belonging. Through it all, the new perspective on dogs spread across Federation space. Some worlds, encountering dogs for the first time, embraced the concept of companion animals. Others resisted, citing their own cultural or religious beliefs about lesser creatures. But communication had begun, dialogues were open, and more importantly, a mutual respect for Earth's canine tradition had taken root. The jokes about eating dogs or dismissing their importance faded as more dignitaries encountered living, breathing examples of that fierce human-canine bond. Eventually, at a grand Federation ceremony celebrating interspecies advancements, Raul Zarek stood on stage while ambassadors from numerous planets took turns sharing their experiences. Ambassador Greln told the audience how Daisy had helped him overcome insomnia brought on by the stress of diplomatic negotiations. A reptilian official from Kelter explained that walking a dog had become a cherished daily routine, giving him insights into how humans formed communal bonds in neighborhoods. One by one, testimonies revealed that dogs had done something remarkable. They bridged emotional gaps far more effectively than any treaty or formal contract. Humans had given the galaxy not just a new technological ally, but a glimpse into the power of unconditional affection. After the speeches, a group photo was taken. Typically, Federation group photos were serious affairs, straight postures, stoic faces. But in this one, dogs of various breeds lounged at their owners' feet, panting happily, some with tongues lolling out. Delegates from species once known for their stoicism reached down to pat a dog's head. Even Commissioner Vesria tried not to smile. Her species rarely displayed outward signs of joy, as a small poodle nuzzled her elongated fingers. It was a moment that would be remembered as a turning point, where the Federation recognized that intelligence was not always the measuring stick for significance, and that sometimes the simplest connections could unify worlds. Raul Zarek lingered after the ceremony, chatting with Dr. Brooks. She looked positively radiant, seeing her once hesitant Federation colleagues praising the program she had helped shape. "You've done it," she told him. "You've changed how entire planets see dogs and how they see humans too." He shook his head. "Not me alone. It was the Morgans, and Lucky, and every family who treated these animals as more than possessions. Once we saw what a dog will do to protect its owner, and what the owner will do in return, the rest was unavoidable." Dr. Brooks smiled. Still, you champion the cause. Later, as Ralzeric prepared to depart Earth for a brief mission elsewhere, the Morgan family came to bid him farewell at the spaceport. Emma and Leo hugged him, and Lucky tried to jump up, only to be scolded half-heartedly by Liam. "Down, boy," Liam said, but then laughed and scratched Lucky's head. Anna extended a small data chip, explaining it contained personal recordings and photos from their time together. So you can show the rest of the Federation what it's like to live with a dog in your home. Ralzeric accepted it with solemn gratitude. "Thank you for teaching me," he said, surprising himself with how genuine his voice sounded. "I will not forget." He stepped onto the ship, and from the hatch, he saw Lucky wagging his tail as the family waved. The sight filled him with a strange longing. It occurred to him that if Everans had once considered forging partnerships with lesser creatures on their homeworld, they might have also developed such emotional ties. Perhaps the greatest lesson of Earth's canines was that connections need not be rational to be deeply meaningful. With a soft hiss, the hatch sealed, and the engines roared to life. As the craft descended, he kept his eyes on the shrinking figures below, a golden dog's tail still visible in the crowd. Reflecting on the journey, Commander Ralzeric felt a rare surge of emotion. He had come to Earth to solve a puzzle about violent misunderstandings over pet animals. He was leaving with an understanding that dogs were the thread weaving humans together with a loyalty unmatched by reason alone. That same thread had now begun weaving the Federation closer as well. And as the stars enveloped his vessel, Ralzeric wondered if one day he, too, might experience the unconditional devotion of a canine companion, forging a bond that transcended logic, and if so, whether he might become, in the dog's eyes, part of its family. If there was any cosmic truth to be gleaned from the strange phenomenon of humans and their dogs, it was that sometimes, to truly unite galaxies, you need a friend who will wag its tail, stand by you in danger, and remind you that love is the bravest force of all.